Well, here we are on a very chilly day, out with the 7Artisans 24mm f1.8. So this is my first outing with it. Impressions are very good so far, and this is the perfect location to try out a wide-angle lens like this. So yeah, this is a wide-angle on full-frame camera. We've got the Nikon Z6III out with us, and well, let's see what we can get here. Yeah, as I anticipated, because I know the 24mm field of view very well, this is really nice. Yeah, I know the 24mm photo lens well because I've owned any number of 24s. I in fact prefer 24mm over 28. So maybe it's just because I shot with so many 24s, but it's even good for street. Gives you a bit more of, say, an environmental street view. But if you get some people in there, gives you a feeling of what's happening. So, yeah, at the risk of repeating myself, I love me a 24mm. Yes, indeed, at least for this kind of use case, street, most architectural scenes, and interiors. At 1.8 it's useful for astrophotography, and I rarely need anything wider than this. As I hope I've illustrated, this is a lens that can be used for candid environmental portraits. Again, that wide aperture comes in handy to isolate a subject. Where a shallow depth of field is more difficult to achieve with a wide angle. And at the price, $329 US, I think it's great value for the money. It comes in Sony E mount, L mount, and, of course, Z mount. Just for a minute, let's look if there's any compromises at that price point. And I propose to do that by looking at a photo or two. Now, before I begin, I should tell you that none of these have had any processing whatsoever, no sharpening, nada. So we're looking here first at an image made with this 7Artisans 1.8 lens and the Nikon Z6III. So here we have the corner of a mural, if I can say that word, and this is wide open at 1.8. So let's just skim through these now, from 1.8 to 2.8 to 4.5 to 5.6, 8, 11, and 16. You can see here at 16, we're starting to get a little bit of diffraction. So actually, F11 is looking better. And I think 8 is looking great. I'm a poet. 5.6. Maybe a little bit of drop off there. And by the time we get to 2.8, not too bad. But obviously at 1.8, we're looking very soft. So let's compare some of these now. We'll choose another image and compare it pixel for pixel. Here we have the 1.8 compared to the 2.8, and we can see that there's a big difference there. So yeah, go right down into the corner here. You can see that there's a big difference here between the 1.8 and the 2.8. Let's move now to a comparison between the 4.5 and the 5.6. And we can see that there's quite a bit of difference there. We'll look in the corner here, right in the corner. And let's move over to the other corner. So we can see the difference. And I have something here. I was focused on the keypad here. And it's a little bit soft, but again, there's been no sharpening or anything. Maybe I was focused more here. But whatever. I will say that I love the bokeh that's going on here in the background. We'll just move to this shot now, where I was focused right about here. Or maybe look at this one. I was focused here. And again, I really like the soft bokeh. It's really quite cinematic. The focus performance was, during the use that I've made of it over the last month, quite acceptable. Maybe not quite so fast as my Nikons, but I never found myself thinking about it or missing shots, which is the point. This is the 7Artisans 24mm 1.8, right? I haven't used this lens too much for video, but I will be going forward because, well, I like the character of this lens. It's sharp, but not in your face or mine. Again, if we use a neutral density filter in good light, we can retain that shallower depth of field, and it has a nice look. At larger apertures, it has just a little more of that cinematic feel. Maybe add a black mist filter for a bit more character, and it doesn't flare unpleasantly. But here's where the included lens hood helps. Focus breathing, never much of an issue with wide angle, is essentially zero. The build is what we've come to expect from 7Artisans, a metal barrel, super smooth focus, and similarly smooth aperture ring. Though there's no lock, I'm pleased to report that the auto position, which to be honest is where I leave it, and control aperture with the camera, it's not easy to knock out of position and find yourself at f16 or so. That is a problem with some lenses, so I'm glad to see this just a bit harder to displace. I haven't had any problem with it. There's a manual autofocus switch, a custom control button. The mount is metal, and there we have USB-C port for firmware updates. There's no sign of weather sealing here, so keep that in mind in bad weather. Otherwise, the whole build is confidence-inspiring, so I won't belabor the technical details any further. I hope the examples I've included showcase at least the potential of this affordable and well-executed wide-angle, wide-aperture lens from 7Artisans. Personally, I'm glad to have a 24mm lens in my bag again. It's been a while, cause I get to keep this lens after the review, but otherwise this isn't a sponsored video, despite the disclosure required by YouTube. I will drop a purchase link in the description, but that's it for me for now. I hope you enjoyed the show and tell. If you did, please help it survive the algorithm by giving it a thumbs up. And if this is your first visit to my channel, please do consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss new content. In the meantime, take care, cheers, and we'll see you later.